All right, guys, in this lesson, we're going to look at combining two players using dplyr, and then we're going to graph them using bar graphs. So let's get into it today. All right, so the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to run the two libraries that we need, the two skills, and we're going to run ggplot2, and the second skill we're going to run is going to be dplyr. And then if you haven't already, you're going to load in your Savant 2020 data. Okay, you should have that downloaded already, so you guys can just pull that in. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to make a new data frame. So we're going to filter in some new data. So we're going to say that the df, the data frame, is equal to Savant. And then I want you to filter in Mike Trout's data from Savant 2020. And if you guys could, you're going to pause the video, filter it in, and then I'll meet you on the other side of this. All right, great. So I filtered in my data. If you should have 411 rows and 92 columns. So this is going to read, so we're going to read this all. It's because you should be able to read your code. That the data frame df is equal to Savant. Then we want to filter only the player name that is equal to two equal signs, Mike Trout. We have 411 observations. So 411 rows. But you guys might want to do comparisons, and dplyr is really nice for this. So we can just change a couple small pieces of code here. So instead of it just equaling Mike Trout, we can add something called in. Okay, so it's the percent sign in percent sign. And then we need to give it choices. So right now, we can run this, and this is going to read. The data frame is equal to Savant, then filter only player names that are in the choices Mike Trout. So I'm going to run that to show you nothing's going to change yet. Mike Trout. And if I put a comma here, I can say Mookie Betts. And if I run this, oops, it's not going to let me do it. And this is a really important kind of lesson, is that when I go in, I close one parenthesis, but it's going to say unexpected symbol. So a lot of times when that happens, we want to just add a second parenthesis to make sure that we've closed both of these open ones. So that's going to be one of the biggest things that we need to know. So we'll run that, and now we're going to see we have 858 rows and 92 observations. And honestly, we can add as many as we want to. Maybe we want to add Tommy Pham. Okay, we get 1,000, and maybe we want to add a couple more guys. All right, great. So I've added Tommy Pham, Eric Hosmer, and that's just kind of filtering some data. So you can click on it if you want to and explore to see what's going on, to make sure that you're just getting the guys we talked about: Mookie Betts, Tommy Pham, okay, Eric Hosmer. Great. We have all four guys in there. That's going to be all the data from 2020 so far. So now we can start to plot our data once we've done that. So what I'm going to ask you guys to do is to pause the video after this, and you're going to make a geom density plot using your df as your data frame. Okay, so pause it, make a geom density plot, and I'll meet you on the other side of this with the correct code. All right, great. So we have made our geom density plot launch angle, and this is going to give me the average launch angle for all balls in play by those guys. So we have just filtered in these guys. But you might want to say, Josh, this really doesn't have me compare anything. And I agree with you. But we can just add one little thing at the very end here. So after the launch angle, we can put a comma, and we can say we want to fill by the player name. So we're going to run that. And you're going to see that we now get the four players broken down into four different plots. And this is going to be kind of important because we're going to see, I'm going to make it bigger for you, for everybody to see it, is that we can just do a quick comparison and start to see where the launch angles are for different players. But this is really not the best plot, so we can add one more thing to kind of clean it up a little bit. So right inside of this geom density, we can put a couple words, and it's called alpha. And alpha is just how opaque do we want these colors to be. So we can say alpha is equal to 0.5. 1 is going to be nothing. So we'll see. If I just run 1, it's going to be the exact same thing. If I run 1, you're going to see it's going to be very clear. And you can kind of play around with this a little bit to kind of get in the middle to figure out what's going on, just so you can start to see the players. And again, if you want to, you can add a facet wrap to split them up to get more information. And again, we can see when we facet wrap by the player's name, Okay, we're going to get the plots that kind of separated out to each player. And this is just a quick way that we can start to analyze a bunch of guys in one shot. But again, if we want to, we can change a couple things out. And instead of geom density, we can add something called geom histogram. And geom histogram makes a histogram plot, which we might all know as a bar plot. So I'm going to add in the geom histogram. And we're going to see that we get a different looking plot here, where we can see, the different densities of players' batted balls. A couple things about geom histogram, if you want to. See how there are a lot of different bars here? You can actually change that by adding something called bin width or bins. So bin width, you can say, I don't know, I want it to be every 10 degrees of launch angle, I want a bin. So if I zoom this up, you guys can start to see that there are less bins, and each one is going to be about 10 different things. But I can also change this from bin width, and I can say, just give me 10 bins. And you're going to see that we get something else, and I'll change this to be like just 3 bins. So you'll see they should just be 3 bars. And it's going to start to kind of paint a clearer picture of what we're going to be looking at. So for lesson number 5, we're going to pick 4 players. We're going to filter them into a data frame, and then we're going to make a geom histogram based off of whatever metric you want to look at to plot there and compare them. And the last thing I'm going to actually do, so we're going to filter in a couple of different players. We're going to make a geom histogram. Okay, you can facet, not facet, completely up to you how you want to compare them. And then the last thing we're going to do is we're going to add a couple different labels. We're going to add a title and a subtitle.